amount of women I see like my exact age, and we're like, oh my God, we're all kind of fed this false sense of fear around how our body works. And again, it's just such a lack of education, which is just so sad. I think that imagine from a really early age, imagine in primary school, understanding even just the hormones that at play throughout your menstrual cycle, why you feel a certain way.
Hello and welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast. This week I'm joined by herbalist and nutritional therapist Aisling Fox. In this episode, Aisling outlines the importance of food for women, especially in the postpartum period. Aisling has lots of tips around how to eat to help our bodies heal, and she's passionate about educating women around their bodies and hormones. Hi Aisling, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast, The Empowered Woman. Tell me what you do and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'm always so excited to be on any kind of platform that can reach women and that can give them information that we all didn't have. So my background is I am a nutritional therapist and I'm a herbalist. I've been in practice the last 10 years and I run a very busy clinic now. We have about 4 practitioners who are all absolutely amazing and all work alongside me. I guess the way my interest in the way we run the clinic as well is I love science. I love looking at bloods. I love knowing how the body works. And then as a herbalist, I trained in traditional Chinese medicine, which makes literally no sense in terms of science. And I stocked 300 different types of herbs in my clinic, all for different conditions. And I use a combination of what I call the science and then the old, really traditional Chinese medicine together. So I love incorporating both sides of the modalities together. I guess for me, my area of passion is women's health. So I work a lot with fertility, hormones, endometriosis, heavy periods, PMS, acne, skin, literally the works. We have a gut health clinic as well that I have amazing practitioners who they're the gut health queens. They love that side of things. So I'm more the hormones and fertility. And yeah, I guess my other area of passion, I also have a podcast as well on women's health. And I'm very, very conscious of spreading information that women need. So I think there's just such lack of conversation, even just an understanding. The amount of my clients come in and we talk about ovulation and they're almost embarrassed that they don't know, but I'm no one ever told us. So it's how are we meant to know these things? So that's kind of us in a nutshell, basically. I actually run the clinic as well with my mum. So we're business partners together. She set up her clinic. She's a herbalist 30 years ago, even longer, wow. 35 years ago now. So she was a nurse and she left her job as a nurse with 4 kids at home. Now me with a child and married, I'm my dad, she just was I'm going to set up my own business as a herbalist 35 years ago. And she's ran a really successful clinic for years and now we work together. So I kind of was brought up with natural medicine as well, I guess. It's something that we were kind of just from day one. It's just the norm in our house. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Amazing. And you mentioned something really important there. I just want to chat about before we get stuck into the nitty gritty is that you have people coming to you and they're how do I not know this? And rightly you say, well, how could we know it? We were never told. There is so much about women's health, about our health that we don't know.
Yeah, completely. I think that we were educated in school. So when you think about your junior cert or leaving cert biology, you learn the science behind what hormones get released and the corpus luteum and the luteal phase and the follicular phase. And that doesn't translate into you feel like this 4 days before your period because of X, that cervical mucus you see is ovulation. It was never broken down and explained to us. And even education around even just birth control and a lot of people don't even know how that works. I remember a year when I was early 20s going in thinking, oh, the pill is great, not realizing you don't get a period because you don't ovulate anymore, you don't produce any hormones. So again, I call myself the guinea pig generation. I'm 35 now. And I feel we were the generation of birth control for 20 years and we were the generation, and now we're the generation of infertility. And I know that sounds really, really grim, but it's also our generation that are really struggling to get pregnant. And we were all terrified, it's really one of these things oh, if you have sex, you will be pregnant. So the amount of women I see my exact age and we're oh my God, we're all kind of fed this false sense of fear around how our body works. And again, it's just such a lack of education, which is just so sad. I think that imagine from a really early age, imagine in primary school, understanding even just the hormones that at play throughout your menstrual cycle, why you feel a certain way. Like the amount of times we've all been there, you feel really down one day, you're crying at an ad on the TV, you want to murder your husband for chewing too loud at dinner. And then you get your period, you're like, oh no, I was actually just getting my period.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah, it
some
makes
people,
sense.
if you
Yeah.
don't recognize that, if you don't understand that, you might think there's something really wrong. People think like,
Yeah.
God, am I depressed? Like, why do I want to quit my job every once a month? And so I think like, hormones are the same. They've been the same forever. Our grannies had the same hormones.
Yeah.
So it really does blow my mind that it's not something that is drilled into us, that we're so well educated on it from a really early age. It's not even talking about sex and things like that. It's just understanding how
No,
your body works, the basics. That's it. Like,
that's it. I completely
yeah.
agree. How do we not know more about this? So explain to
Mm.
me the importance of food and nutrition in women's health in general.
Yeah, I mean, that's the center of everything, food and nutrition. And really, why food is so impactful is it's going to support your gut health. So I think when we talk about the
Mhm.
gut, the biggest misconception is, well, I poo every day and I'm not bloated, so my gut is fine. Whereas your gut has more jobs than just digestion. So one of the other
Yeah.
major jobs is for the production of your happy hormones, your neurotransmitters. So if you're someone struggling with anxiety or depression or low mood, like the first thing I would look at if you were in my clinic is what your gut health is like. And then the other major job, even more important than this, is your immune system. So up to 80% of our immune system is the lining of our gut. And when I say immune system, people assume like, oh, I haven't been sick in ages, I'm never on antibiotics. But your immune system is how your body
Yeah.
responds to things. So you have acne and it's not going away. You have dry skin, you have, I don't know, period pain, you have joint pain, like anything in the body that's red, dry, painful, hot, itchy, swollen, which is literally most conditions that you're going to see,
Yeah.
is driven by inflammation, which is your immune system. So going back to food, your food is medicine. Food is the step one for everything. And even things, again, even talking about hormones, like the way we get rid of hormones is we poo them out. So if you come to
Yeah.
me with heavy periods or acne, endometriosis, any hormonal issues, the first thing we talk about is actually digestion and gut health, because there's no point. People often go down buying expensive supplements and things like this, but if you're not pooing, your hormones won't be supported. So that's
Hmm.
why food is key. Like no amount of supplements can outdo a poor diet. And again, even like we're saying, it's kind of getting back to basics, even from a nutritional perspective, that some people like there's so much, buzz around the superfoods and things like this. And people,
Yeah.
or on the other side, there's so much fear mongering around processed foods and ultra processed foods and this and that. And there's space at the table for everything from my perspective, but people have kind of forgotten about just the basics of nutrition. Just get some good food into you, and then you're well
Yeah.
able to have the bit of processed food all the time. Whereas people are kind of focusing on everything they shouldn't be doing and forgetting about what they should be doing.
What they should. Yeah, that's so true. And do nutritional needs, do they change throughout a woman's life?
Um, I feel like the bases are always the same. Like
Yeah.
as you get older, you may need a higher intake of maybe calcium and magnesium. Obviously, when you're pregnant, your nutritional needs are going to
Yeah.
change. When you're postpartum, when you're breastfeeding, they're going to change. But generally, the basics kind of are the same. Like from a
Yeah.
nutritional perspective, fiber is one of the most important nutrients. Like we need fiber whether we're 5 or whether we're 95. So
Yeah.
from that perspective, that's super important. Um, Omega-3, like I'd say, is that as you get older, you need kind of more omega-3 in your diet as well for things like brain health and joint health and dryness. Like when, talk about menopause, like your estrogen levels are non-existent post-menopausal and your body become a lot drier. So omega-3 is definitely more important kind of for that generation. So I guess, yeah, they probably do fluctuate. But I think, again, the basics of your vitamins, your minerals, your protein, fats and carbs, the basics are pretty much the same throughout your whole
Okay.
life, essentially.
And just to focus now on matrescence, when did you first come across that word and then realize how much of a transition it is for women?
I was actually postpartum myself. So I think I was probably like maybe a year postpartum. And I did a workshop with a midwife. with a group of women who were also postpartum. I was hosting a workshop and she came on and she talked about matrescence, and I'd actually never heard of it before, but I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that actually is so on the ball. Again, something we were never educated on. I never knew that was even a thing, but of course it
Yeah.
makes sense. Like the
Yeah.
change that you go through from before you get pregnant to postpartum is just unbelievable. Like, of course, there needs to be a word for it. And I'm so, so passionate around postpartum support because I feel like there's so, like, after being through it myself, so I have a little boy now, Theo, who's 2, and there's so much focus around the birth and the labor and even,
Mm-hmm.
the breastfeeding and changing nappies and the baby and the first aid and all this. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have a baby and the mother just gets completely overlooked. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think postpartum is when we need the most support. Like, do you know that even the way, like, I remember giving birth and my husband had to go home. Like, and I was like, he's not been able to do anything for the 10 months I've been pregnant. And now the one time I need him, he's getting shoved out of the hospital. I understand can't all be staying and that kind of thing. But it's just so interesting
Yeah.
the culture that we live in that, imagine, like, I didn't have a section, but I could imagine having a section. My friend had one, it could barely even pick up her baby.
Yeah.
So, like, definitely there's so little focus and support around postpartum. And matrescence is, I think if women knew that there will be changes, like you're definitely not the same person you were before you had a baby, and not all in a bad way. I feel like there's so much fear mongering around it as well, but just understand like it's
Yeah.
so normal if you do feel different because your brain is now different, like that the
That's it.
hormones are now different. So again,
Yeah.
having the understanding behind that is so important.
Postnatal depletion. Okay. It again, I feel that doesn't get enough attention and that it's not understood. And so, like you say, your body is changing so much after you give birth and it has, grown a baby for the last 9 months. So it's depleted of all of its stores and it's done its job and it now needs to repair and build up again. So how do a woman's nutritional needs change, I suppose, postpartum and in early motherhood?
Yeah, like, and again, this is just so important. Like, I think even going back to when you're pregnant or even before you get pregnant, like blood testing, I'm very passionate
Mm,
around blood testing and I always talk about optimal levels. And there's
yeah,
no, what's the best way to describe it? Like, I'm never bashing the medical industry because I'm like, they're trained differently, but they are
yeah,
trained to diagnose deficiencies. So if your iron is less than
hmm
9, you're anemic, let's say. Whereas we know
yeah,
optimal iron is between 20 and 30. Vitamin D on a blood test, if it's above 50 grand, where optimal levels are above 100. So a lot of people fall through the cracks because technically they're not diagnosed out of range, but they're certainly not optimal. So I see a lot of women going
yeah,
into a pregnancy already depleted. And a lot of people now know about
hmm
things like fertility supplements and the amount of, or pregnancy supplements. The amount of people stop them the minute that they give birth, when even more so, that's even more important. So like, even if you haven't had a
yeah,
section or even if your birth has been completely straightforward and you haven't hemorrhaged, like I lost nearly 2 litres of blood when I gave birth. And I knew, okay, I have to take my iron, I have to take my
yeah,
supplements. A lot of
wow,
people wouldn't even be aware of that. But even if you just have the most straightforward birth, nothing goes wrong, you have a wound the size of a dinner plate in your uterus that has to be repaired. And what is going to repair that
hmm
is protein, iron, vitamin C, zinc. They are your nutrients. And what happens is postpartum, you're absolutely wrecked. You're not sleeping. Stress levels are going to be higher. So when your stress is high,
yeah,
your immune system is suppressed. So you cannot run from a tiger and repair your immune system at the same time. So in that real state
at
of
the
fight or
same
flight
time,
postpartum, it's, your body's under quite a lot of stress. Not to mention eating can just be so difficult. Those really, even just not even the early days. Like I
yeah,
find sometimes I eat better when I'm in work, like if it's a 2-year-old at home, that nutrition, some people are going quick food and you're going for a lot of high sugar foods just to give yourself that bit of extra energy and like that you've forgotten about
yeah,
your supplements. Sure, I'm not pregnant anymore. Why am I taking my supplements? The mothers forget. Like I always say you're a mother the minute you find out you're pregnant because you kind of make those sacrifices straight away. Whereas the minute you
hmm
give birth, you're no longer, responsible for the baby from a hosting perspective. So women just stop taking their supplements where I'm like, all my clients take the minimum 6 months postpartum and I would keep
yeah,
them on the fertility supplements. Things like omega-3 is really interesting as well because we can't make omega-3. So the baby will drain it from us. So we're deficient. So that kind of real brain fog and dry skin and all those kind of things postpartum could be lack of omega-3, especially if you're breastfeeding. Like again, your baby's going to take it from you. Can't get it from anywhere else. So I think women understanding that your body has literally built a baby from your body, and then also you're probably going into the probably the worst phases of your life in terms of looking after yourself with the best sleep and exercise and the best foods. And, you know, you've probably never been out of your routine as much as you are those
Yeah.
early days postpartum. So I'm such a big believer in supplements. I think supplements are brilliant for picking up the slack. So like a really good quality multivitamin or your fertility nutrient, if it's a good quality brand, omega-3, absolutely iron is just so important. It's very interesting. So again, my area of passion. So I'm always researching things. So obviously postpartum depression is so common. And the research now shows that if you have an underactive thyroid postpartum, you're more likely to get postpartum depression. And two of the
Wow.
biggest risk factors for underactive thyroid is going to be stress. So we don't have to talk about that postpartum. Like your body has just literally been handed this new baby and you have to figure it out. But also low iron. So low iron increases
Yeah.
your risk of postpartum depression. And it's not like I walked out of the hospital and I've never had my iron checked since, and I hemorrhaged giving birth. So they checked it. I had just enough hemoglobin to leave, right? But no one ever checked it since then. Now I run bloods, I can do it myself. And the amount of times I'm like, if I didn't know this, like it nearly took me a year to get my iron levels
Yeah.
back up to where they were. If you didn't know this, you'd be absolutely depleted. No one checked up on me. And same, my friends. It's again interesting going through it. Like you go into your 6-week checkup and how's the baby? Yeah, Grant, how are you? Yeah, fine. Do you want to go birth control? And I'm like, no, I don't want to go birth control. 6 weeks postpartum, are you okay? And there was no mention, again,
Yeah.
this is my personal, there's no mention of, okay, how's your iron? Like, you know, like it's just
Yeah.
it's so backwards. It really is so backwards. Whereas when you're pregnant, you're certainly getting your iron levels checked, do you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, again, I feel like women just understanding that if you are feeling absolutely wiped postpartum, sometimes we put it down to, so my iron for me as well, postpartum, I was like, I took an iron supplement and I was like, I'm probably fine, and didn't take it anymore. And I was wrecked and I was having heart palpitations and I was
Yeah.
freezing cold all the time and I was feeling anxious. And I did my bloods and I'm like, of course I'm low on iron. But to me, I was like, oh, I'm just postpartum. I'm just tired. Like, I'm just, you know, you kind of
Yeah.
sometimes gaslight yourself being like, I'm just, you know, it's just because the baby, when actually, no, there's actually something not right. To get me? So I think
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about getting bloods done like 6 weeks postpartum to make sure everything is okay. 3 months postpartum, every 3 months for the first 6 to 12 months to make sure your levels are coming up the way they should be, because
Yeah.
it literally can be night and day in terms of your postpartum experience. Like it really
Yeah.
can, because it's hard anyway, but it's going to be much harder if you're low in iron and vitamin D and B12 and your thyroid's underactive. So in my situation or my clients, I'm like, let's control what we can control. And this is something you can absolutely control.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point and so important. Um, what are some of the biggest nutritional challenges you would see in your clinic with a woman postpartum?
Not having breakfast is by far the most common one.
Okay.
And I'm like, if you do nothing else, like my clients, if anyone listens to this in my client, they're going to be laughing at me like, oh my God, Asha, she drills this into us. If you do nothing else but have a proper breakfast, it will make a difference, a huge difference to how the rest of your day goes, because basically what we're looking for is blood sugar balancing. Okay. So
Yeah.
the less fancy term blood sugar balancing, I would call it being hangry.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we've all experienced being hangry. And what happens when you get hangry is you absolutely cannot make a rational decision. So all of a
No.
sudden you're like, oh my God, feck it. And you eat like a croissant for breakfast or 2 slices of
Yeah.
toast, or you end up getting the
Hmm.
takeaway for dinner, or you're standing there making lunch, eating 5 biscuits, right? And
Yeah.
it's not like, it's not me saying the sugar is bad. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's that feeling of like, oh my God, I need to get something into me quick. And you almost can't make a rational decision.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And what
Hmm.
happens also when blood sugars crash and you get hangry is your stress hormones are released. So
Yeah.
you're already stressed that day just because you're postpartum. And imagine you're letting this happen 2 or 3 times a day. So when you get up in the morning, and what I mean by a good breakfast is something with protein.
Okay.
Protein, 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 protein. Think of Irish mummy dinners. So Irish mummy dinners are always built around the protein source, right? They
Yeah.
have a bit of chicken, we're doing salmon, we're doing bolognese, we're doing pork chops. And then you're like, right, what am I doing here? What we're doing potatoes, we do a few bit of rice, what veg do I have? You don't pick the potatoes and say, what are we having with these potatoes for dinner?
Yeah.
But then people have toast for breakfast, or people have cornflakes for breakfast, or people have even, porridge and berries can seem like a great breakfast.
I
But porridge and
know.
berries are just two carbs together. They're like eating potatoes and carrots and a glass of milk for dinner. And we just don't realize it. Like, most people I see have good dinners, and it's the breakfast and the snacks and maybe lunches that are the downfall. But if
Mm-hmm.
you eat protein, you will not be hungry. So I remember postpartum, eating was so inconvenient. I literally be like, oh,
Yeah.
feck's sake, I can't believe I'm hungry again. And when your body's kind of running on that adrenaline, you also don't really get the same hunger cues. Like, I remember kind of not
Yeah.
being hungry for a while, and then all of a sudden you're absolutely ravenous, especially if you're
Starving. Yeah.
breastfeeding. Oh my God, that breastfeeding hunger, I've never experienced it. I remember like going out for a walk and literally having to stop for a brownie like halfway to just to get the
Yeah.
sugar fix. And
Mm-hmm.
they would definitely have been the days where I might have just had a slice of toast or grab something quick,
Yeah.
banana, a cup of coffee, this kind of thing in the mornings, not thinking, because it is very difficult. Sometimes you have to kind of override. Maybe you had the sleepless night and you're feeling racked, you're not really
Yeah.
feeling hungry, maybe you're anxious that day, maybe there's no one there to support you, and your other half's gone back to work and you feel a bit worried
Yeah.
about what's lying ahead. And you can either be hungry or you can run from a tiger. Okay. So sometimes it's about getting up, and like, I remember, those early days, I used to make myself a big bowl of overnight oats and put protein powder in and some Greek yogurt and some peanut butter and nuts and seeds and loads of berries. And it could take me an hour to eat it. Like, I'd kind of be munching on it throughout the morning because I wasn't that hungry, but I knew it had to get it into me. Do you know, that kind of
Yeah.
way?
You
I find
needed it.
smoothies
Yeah.
great for clients as well. Just make a
Mm-hmm.
smoothie, put a bit loads of protein, whether again Greek yogurt or protein powder, nuts and seeds or
Yeah.
things like that into it, and drink it over the course of the morning. Again, it doesn't have to be like a massive breakfast if you're not that hungry, but by eating protein you will see such a big difference in your cravings and how
Yeah.
often you have to eat. So again, my hack is, when you're making lunch, as much protein as you can in your lunch. And for people who don't realize, protein foods are things like meat, fish, eggs, cheese, yogurts, nuts and seeds, and then plant-based proteins like chickpeas and lentils and kidney beans and hummus and falafels. And challenge yourself. So if you're making, I say, like a salad for lunch, I'd be putting in some grilled chicken and some boiled eggs, maybe a few bacon, maybe a sprinkle of seeds. Like, I'd be putting extra protein, because if you eat that, that will keep you going out for 4 hours and you don't have to think
Yeah.
about food again. So that's my
Mm-hmm.
biggest tip postpartum. Get your protein in, plan your, even like meal prep for a few days of like overnight
Yeah.
oats for a couple of mornings, just so they're done for you. Get your other half to do them for you. I found kind of a lot of the ready-made meals really handy. There's a lovely brand called Eato, Eatto, Eato.ie is the company. And they're kind of like, I was kind of like kind of hearty Irish mammy dinner, pre-made meals versus kind of real processed. You kind of get some of them sometimes and they're not
Yeah.
great. This was actually lovely. So sometimes I found them great for the days I just wasn't organized, and I could just
Uh-huh.
throw them in. You can cook everything from frozen, and you're kind of getting a bit of a more like proper meal, especially when you don't really care. Like, I found that as well, when you're not
Yeah.
really interested in food, you don't really care what you're eating. So that's why the slice of toast or toasted sandwich or something, just like, oh, just something to make me not hungry but I don't really care what I'm eating. So I kind of found those meals great because I just was like, yeah, grand, just get them into me, they'll keep me going, like,
Yeah.
fine, do you know, that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely my biggest tips for new mums, is get all the snacks, high protein snacks. Like, hummus is great, nuts, nut butters, again, things with your bit of protein, and then have your bit of chocolate and your cup of tea. Like,
Yeah.
enjoy that when baby is napping and you have a few minutes to yourself. And but there's a difference between the 5 biscuits you eat when you're heating up your lunch and
Yes.
a cup of tea and a few biscuits when you're chilling and you're enjoying it. So it's
Yeah.
just about kind of like making space for both, really, and keeping the things that your soul will enjoy a little bit more, I always say.
Yeah, that's it. And just talk to me a bit more about that. So how does it influence postpartum recovery and the hormonal balance?
So it depends where you are. Like, so let's say you're not breastfeeding. Let's say like you're bottle feeding and you're hoping to get your period back pretty quickly. Your
Uh-huh.
period should usually return within the first like 6 to 8 weeks. And if it hasn't come back,
Okay.
there's normally a reason why. So again, is it underactive thyroid? Is it low iron? Another really common reason is just stress. Like, you have to
Yeah.
remember, like, again, we're also obsessed with the period, right? But what a period means is you've probably ovulated. And ovulation is the main event. Like ovulation means you're after producing your hormones. Ovulation is your body being like, yeah, let's go make a baby. Obviously we don't want a baby 6 weeks postpartum.
Yeah.
But what can happen sometimes is, especially if you're under fueling yourself. So, you know, again, I see some women and they're actually not eating enough during the day.
Yeah.
And this could be one of the reasons why, and on top of the sleepless nights, on top of just the postpartum anxiety and worry and everything else goes alongside it, that their body's under fueled. So that can really impact hormones. Like we have a hormone called estrogen, and that's really impacted by stress. That'd be quite important to support that. From a breastfeeding perspective as well, hormones, like, so it's funny again. So I'm actually still breastfeeding now. I have a 2-year-old and he's like a little addict. So I don't know when I'm going to stop. So it's funny that like when I was pregnant, I got the bottles, I had the formula, I had the sterilizer.
Yeah.
I was very much in the mindset of like, what works for me, I'm just going to do it for as long as it suits. And if it doesn't suit, because I've seen so many women be so hard on themselves around breastfeeding,
Yeah.
and it just, like, your mental health by far is the most important thing. Absolutely. So I'm very much pro like happy mother, whatever way that looks.
Yes.
But it's interesting me learning about breastfeeding and then going through it myself, and I've had a completely different perspective on it. And what I found was like, there's so much things like, you know, you have to eat extra 600 calories a day for breastfeeding. And to be honest, I actually kind of disagree with that. Like, I think I lost 20 kilos postpartum, like between baby weight and things like that,
Yeah.
back down to my normal weight. And to lose weight, you're in a calorie deficit. And I had a massive amount of milk. I was pumping all the time. You know what I mean? So it absolutely, me being in a calorie deficit absolutely did not impact my milk quality, my milk supply. But what did impact it was not eating properly. So if I had days where I didn't really drink much water, or my breakfast was a slice of toast, my lunch then was a few chips, or we got a takeaway that night, I definitely wouldn't have the milk supply at the end of that day, even if my calories were in a surplus. Imagine if we got like Chinese that was chicken balls and the curry sauce and, you know, the works with that, and maybe chocolate afterwards, like, definitely wouldn't be in a calorie deficit those days, but I certainly wasn't getting the nutrients in. So from my perspective, going through it, it's actually nutrients that are absolutely essential, especially with breast milk production. So again, going back to the breakfast, like oats are a brilliant breakfast. Hops from the oats are great for supporting breast milk. So my clients, a massive bowl of porridge, your flax seeds, your pumpkin seeds. I used to put in like almost a whole tub of raspberries and blueberries to get your micronutrients in. And definitely nutrients are so essential. Even us talking about repair, like if you have a cut in your hand, going back to me talking about the gut and the immune system, what feeds your gut? Your food. What helps your immune system? Your gut. So, you know, it all kind of falls back into what we're talking about at the start, being like the center of everything is actually gut health, and this is your nutrition. But they're just kind of other two key things that if anyone is thinking about breastfeeding, your hydration and your nutrients, especially micronutrients like vitamins, minerals, are, I find, the most important than anything else.
And does the way we kind of nourish ourselves during the postpartum period, would that, if we're not, you know, and I don't want to say doing it right, because what's right for one person might not be right for another person, and it's so hard to do things when you're in that phase. But if we're not giving ourselves even the minimum level, what does that do long term, or does it impact long term? Do we eventually come back around in balance?
If you mean if you're not eating properly postpartum, like what would it look like?
Yeah, like if you're not minding yourself. So the focus is like really on the baby, and is the baby gaining weight and blah, 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 blah. But if the mothers aren't nutritionally supported, will that go on to have an impact later on in life for us?
I mean, I don't want to be a sweeping statement saying, yeah, it definitely will, but like, I presume it would. Like any other stage of your life, if you're not looking after yourself, it's going to catch up on you eventually. Do you know, that kind of way?
Yeah.
The difference sometimes postpartum is that when you're running on adrenaline, your body generally doesn't get sick, right? So your body's in a state of fight or flight. It's doing everything to protect you and get you out of the dangerous state. And sometimes that postpartum fight or flight could be 6 months. The amount of women I see who will get diagnosed with postpartum depression 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line.
Yeah.
And it's like their body is functioning on fumes, and then something has to come to a head eventually. So it's not even just postpartum from my perspective, it's any time in your life. Like I even see women and men who are working 90 hours a week and not looking after themselves and having 5 coffees a day, and like I'm like, this, you're gonna hit a wall. So it's kind of the same, you know, the same kind of mindset that you can't pour from an empty cup. And absolutely, when you are postpartum, you're constantly pouring from that cup. So it's very much about try and look after yourself. And it's not about making fresh meals and meal prepping and doing everything
Yeah.
perfectly. It's just about trying to get the basics right. So book in 10 minutes, get your bloods done. That's not hard to do. Like, do
Hmm.
that for yourself. Bring the baby with you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make a
Yeah.
breakfast. Get someone else to make a breakfast for you. Whether even if you're not
Yeah.
into oats, eggs on toast. Perfect. It takes literally how long? A minute and a half to scramble some eggs. So it's kind
Hmm.
of just trying to put yourself first. And it can be difficult because when you're feeling so exhausted, everything is an
Yeah.
effort. But it's one of those things, if you can kind of get over that hump, when you do it, you have more energy to look after
That's
yourself
it.
then. Do you get me? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it can be hard to do it. I think if someone else is there to support you, like, again, the lack of education around it. Like, I was so lucky to have my mum. Like, my mum was actually a midwife and she was a nurse, and now she's a
Brilliant.
herbalist and naturopath. So we've kind of have best of both worlds. And when I was postpartum, my mum looked after me and I looked after Theo. That's how I felt. Like, she'd come
Yeah.
into the house and she'd make me breakfast and she'd give me my herbs and give me my supplements. And I wouldn't have, I just kept forgetting to do it. Like, she, was
Yeah.
looking. And even when I went to her house, now you go for a sleep and I'll take the baby. And, she very much looked after me. So I think if someone asks you, like, how can I help you? Or someone's popping over and sitting there for an hour cuddling the baby when they could do the dishwasher for you, or they could say, do you
Yeah.
mind giving me 10 minutes, going to have a shower? Or could you bring me over a bit of lunch? Or could you stop and get me cooked chicken on the way over? Or like, give people those jobs, especially those early days when you need it so much. And even more
Yeah.
so, I think as well, I actually found one of the most difficult parts postpartum was around 5 months, because my baby Theo was huge and I was exclusively breastfeeding, and I felt like he was draining the life out of me. I was trying for him to start on solids and his sleep was awful, and you're kind of out of that, like your adrenaline's now switching off and people have kind of stopped knocking in. Not like people are still
Yeah.
thinking about you as much, but you're not
Hmm.
like actually postpartum. So I found that point really difficult, or just probably one of the most hard. I actually hadn't gone back to work then, because I was like, I actually just need, I went back 2 days a week, but I was like, I need something for myself again. So I can imagine it's
Yeah.
hard like that if you don't know any of the things I'm talking about today. You've no idea about supplements, no idea about blood. You're having toast for breakfast, and now you're 5 months in and you're wrecked alongside all that. Like, I did everything right and I was still wrecked. Do you know what I mean? So it's just about trying
Yeah.
to do your
That's
best and
it.
have an understanding of it that we're not educated on.
In your work with mothers, what is something you wish there was more information about around nutrition and matrescence?
Blood testing, hands down. It should be
Okay.
absolutely non-negotiable. It should be that you're
Okay.
back in like, if you miss a hospital appointment, they're ringing you being like, where are you?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
should be absolutely the same way. It should be a non-negotiable appointment that you have 6 weeks postpartum, and pelvic floor is the other one. That should
Yeah.
also be absolutely put in. The amount of women who can't sneeze without peeing themselves,
I
sex is
know.
painful, like, and they don't realise that's an issue. Again, you have to go and pay, unless you have some issue during birth. But most people,
Yeah.
women's pelvic floor needs a bit of support afterwards, that way, even just, or even just to be like, no, it is okay. So there are
Uh-huh.
two things I'm just like, again, non-negotiable. My clients, like, when you're with a lot of the pelvic floor, like, there's a lot of a waiting list. I remember I booked it when I
Hmm.
gave birth and I had to wait for like 10 weeks to even get an appointment. So I think that's
Yeah.
something to do when you're still pregnant, to book it in for yourself 6 weeks postpartum and the appointment is
Yeah.
made. And like, again, there's just so, again, it's the health of the mother. They don't care anymore if the
That's
baby's
it.
out. There's
No.
no, do you know what I mean? There's no like middle hospital. So like, maternity hospitals for the babies. The
Yeah.
GP and the hospital sees sick people, where
Yeah.
postpartum women aren't sick, but we're not
No.
well. Like, we don't know how we are. So I think there should absolutely be some compulsory appointment that's made for you when you're leaving, being like, we'll see you in 6 weeks. Definitely. And
Yeah.
obviously that 6 week checkup from the GP. But I presume that most people listening, I remember once GP DM'd me, kind of just giving out, being like, we always check bloods and this. And I put up a poll on my Instagram being like, who got checked their 6 week checkup? And I think like
I
4% of
didn't.
people said, yeah. Most people didn't. And it's
No.
probably on their to-do list. Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
I can understand that. And actually, no, I can't understand, because, like what I was going to say, I can understand if people have a clinical reason. I had a clinical reason. Again, I walked
Yeah.
out, I lost nearly 2 liters of blood. My ferritin was 12 when I left the hospital. My iron was like 5. Like, it was so low,
Jesus.
and
Yeah.
no one's ever checked it. To this day, no one's ever checked it. So I've been on both sides. Like, I understand that I'm very particular and I want everyone to be optimal, and maybe I live in this la la land, but being through it myself, I see things in a different light.
Yeah.
And women do need to take responsibility for their own health because no one else is going to do it for you, unfortunately.
No,
Um,
that's
and it's
it.
very difficult to do that postpartum. It's so tough. It really is hard. Even just pick one of the things and try and do it. And
Yeah.
be kind to yourself. And it's tough. But I think, sorry, come back to your question. Those two things should be absolutely non-negotiable.
Yeah. And so, if a new mother was listening today and they could do, like you say, just one thing to better support her body nutritionally, what do you think that could be?
Protein with every meal. Every single meal, you will feel a million times better if you're getting crashes during the day. So being hungry, low energy, craving sugar, that kind of feeling, lack of motivation, like a lot of the time is from blood sugar imbalances. Like another
Hmm.
typical thing I'd see, especially now kind of more winter time, is vegetable soup. So people make loads of effort to make this gorgeous vegetable soup and lovely brown bread. Vegetable soup is a bowl of vegetables and a glass of water. That's not a meal. You'd never serve that for dinner. Do you know what I mean? And you have your
Yeah.
vegetable soup, and then, or a real typical diet. So this is actually really one. So people trying to be good, right? They have their porridge and berries for breakfast. They have an apple and a herbal tea in the morning, and then they vegetable soup at lunchtime. And that
Yeah.
day is great from a nutritional perspective. So vitamins and minerals, brilliant. Carbs, brilliant. But you have no protein. And all of a
No.
sudden, 4 o'clock, your blood sugars are going to absolutely crash, and then you're going to eat 5 biscuits, right? And then dinner comes around, you're as feck, we'll just get the takeaway. Because when you eat something sweet, your blood sugars spike again, and what goes up has to come down again. So it's like you're on this
Yeah.
roller coaster all day long. This goes for every single person that I would see, like low energy, anxiety, hormone fluctuations. If we understood again, balancing our blood sugar levels, if our energy levels, imagine you felt the same at 7 o'clock as you did at 8 o'clock in the morning in terms of
Yeah.
energy and mood and cognitive function. And do you know that kind of way, the 4 p.m. slump, you're exhausted, you go for a coffee and a bit of chocolate to keep you going. Whereas if your energy levels are more stable throughout the day becomes a lot easier to manage. So
Hmm.
planning your meals, even just having all those little snacks I have, like hummus and smoked salmon, have maybe chicken in the house, cheese, Philadelphia, nuts, seeds, protein bars, protein shakes, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, like anything, just kind of listing off any protein foods. Boiled eggs, I used to always, maybe I'm
Yeah.
just kind of a weird because I'm a nutritionist, but like I'd boil a few eggs and put them in a lunchbox, and I just literally eat a boiled egg, run out the door sometimes, like, okay, there's my protein, just get something into you. And then
Yeah.
I'd meet my friends for a coffee and still have the brownie and a coffee, but it doesn't impact you the same way when you've already had your protein. So it's not me saying don't have that for breakfast, but it's just about having something else in it. And I promise, if someone is listening, you'll feel so much better once your blood sugars are more stable. Absolutely.
Brilliant. And Aisling,
Yeah.
just finally, tell me, for somebody who might be having a tough in this matrescence period and identity shifts and the hormonal drops, what is something that maybe you did yourself? And it doesn't have to be nutritional, just
Mhm.
what did you do in that sort of postpartum period that helped you kind of navigate through and know that it's just a phase and, you know, everything's going to be okay?
Yeah. I think that what you said there is just a phase. Like I have a WhatsApp group with all my mom friends, all the girls, and our tagline of the group is it's all a phase. Everything's a phase. So when someone's having a meltdown, we're like, this is happening, they're not sleeping. We're like, girls, it's just a phase. And I think
Yeah.
remembering that, but it's hard, it is hard when you're in it. I think taking time for yourself, I think that, like, I don't understand the mom guilt side of things. I just think that is the most ridiculous. You've never heard of the term dad guilt, first of all, like
I
mom guilt.
know.
And I
I
think,
know.
you know, we'll be better mums when we have time to ourselves. Absolutely. So arranging things, like I was only 2 weeks postpartum and pumping went well. Actually, wasn't even pumping. Got let down from breastfeeding, and I went out for an hour and a half with one of my best friend for lunch, like literally like 5 minutes from my house. Like, so we just had a chat. We had like a little quick
Yeah.
2 course lunch, and then I was back and all within the 2 hours then. And that was just so good for the soul, just to sit and chat. And for me as well, maybe not every single day, but like I love my glam. I love getting up and put my makeup on and my tan. And like, again, not all the time I get it those early days postpartum, but No, I actually did. I remember actually maybe like a weekend, like blow dry my hair and put a bit of tan on and going for a walk. And that made me feel better because that's who I am.
Yeah.
That's my something that I enjoy, do you know, that way. So I think
Hmm.
like trying to keep in those little things for yourself and not losing
Yeah.
yourself, which is so common. Like it's so hard, especially that when you have so little support. I think find your mommy friends, I think is really important as well. Um I was so lucky. Five of my best friends had babies in the space of 5 months. So we're all on maternity leave together, and we just
Okay.
had like
Yeah.
it was so special. And we were like, no, this is so unheard of. Like we recognize how important it was. But put like everyone's feeling the same way. So like all
Yeah.
those baby groups are not for the babies, they're for the mums. The babies they're not going to remember any of this. Like it's the mammies to meet up and have a chat, and even the people who might be not as maybe more anxious going to things, and just put yourself out there and go. It's just nice to
Yeah.
even have something to go and have a chat and you know even if it's just for an hour. Um, what else? Like, I think, yeah, don't like think about what brings you joy and try to keep that in, even if it's a bath once a week, you know, ask, like, accept help. Like, I
Hmm.
remember really early, I was actually sorry, it was the day after I gave birth, and I'm a very type A personality, right? So I run a business. I'm very much like, I can do it all myself, like,
Yeah.
the boss, like getting things done. And my mum rang me. So obviously the first night you come home from hospital is just an absolute, like I remember like Googling baby mucus at like 3 o'clock in the morning. We didn't sleep. We were freaked. Like it was just like, honestly, it
Yeah.
was like something from a movie. And my mum texted me then early, when like, how was last night? And I was honest. I was like, it was an absolute shit show, right? I was like, it was awful. And then a half an hour later, my doorbell rang. So it's like 7:15 in the morning and my doorbell rang and it was my mum, right?
Yeah.
But I answered the door, being like, "What are you doing here?" Like, and I was annoyed, being like, "Why are you here?" Like, I was like, "Do you know what I mean? Like we're fine, we're doing okay." And my mum came in and was like, "Give me the baby, go have a shower, go back to bed." She made me breakfast, and then it
Yeah.
was only then, probably actually, I'd say like a month or two later, I was like, "Mum," like I actually understood that then, and I was like, "Thank you for coming over that day." Like that, it's okay. You don't have to be that really strong. It's okay to ask for
Hmm.
help. Like, you know, you're not meant to know. What I felt like when I had a new baby was I felt like I got a job that I wasn't qualified for. That
Yeah.
I remember the first night being in the hospital and I didn't know how to change a nappy. So like I really like I remember like putting on the nappy and then I was like, where are the flaps? Where are the things that close the nappy? And I remember I had to call the midwife and I was just like, I don't know how to I've never changed a nappy before. I was so because I was not a baby person at all. Like I was not into kids pre having a baby. And I remember being like, I don't know how to do this. And I felt so stupid, but she just was like, oh, you're
Oh.
grand, and showed me. But now I've changed how many a million nappies since then. So I think you're not expected to know everything, even though you feel
No.
like you should because
Yeah.
you've had this new baby. But like, it's okay to ask for help from people,
Yeah.
and take the time for yourself. And absolutely, like mom guilt, I just hate that phrase. I'm like, no, there's no mom guilt. You know, if you're happy, a happy mom is a happier baby. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say as well, this is just me personally, depends on your partner, but like let your other half do things. So like I
Yeah.
can listen to my friends, like, they do everything. It's like, oh, he can't do it right anyway. Or like I remember my husband, like he used to hate when Theo was really small, putting his vest over his head. They're like, oh no, you're better at it than me. Like I can't do it. And I'm like, just figure it out. Like you have to just figure it
Exactly.
out. And I
Figure
just,
it
where
out.
sometimes people step in, I think when you're the sole provider,
Yeah.
the person at home, you're like, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. And becomes kind of very much, you're like meant to be having a shower and all of a sudden then you're changing the nappy, you're
Yeah.
making the milk. And so I think like let your other half have some responsibility as well, because I've seen that so much. I'm sure you're the same. Like some
Yeah.
dads don't even know what time their baby the bottle is at, or do you get me? So give away some of that control. Like they're also their parent, and it will take a lot of responsibility off you as well. Kind of being able to
Yeah.
share that mental load. But obviously it depends on the partner as well, do you know? But that's just
Yeah.
something I've seen a lot with my friends, that like the people who are struggling more are the people who are trying to do it all on their own without support, which we don't need to do. If you
No.
hopefully you don't need to do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all for this week. Next week, I'm joined by doula and doula trainer Creisha Lynch as she talks about her matrescence experience. This is a heartwarming conversation you really don't want to miss. Thank you for listening, and chat to you all next week.